them she was raped. Of course not. I certainly never felt that what I did was justified or right. It was just a question of how wrong was it. That was a big misperception about this case, that it was about justification or excuse. And my brother and I essentially pled guilty. That was very hard for me to hear the ridicule about that, because I really felt that Eric and I, we could have gone to trial like most people and just sort of, we weren't there, it wasn't us, and had that trial.
What do you mean, we could have gone to trial, we weren't there?
Well, you could go to trial and just say that I was, chipping golf balls at the time and I wasn't there. And Eric and I went to trial and said, we did this.
There were tapes.
Tapes became admissible because we said we did it. Lyle and I fought because he felt that telling the world that Dad was a sexual torturer was killing Dad twice, and he did not want to kill Dad twice. And he fought, and he said, I don't want to go up there, I'm not going to take the stand, I'm not going to do it. And then when he did, there was a great outpouring, but there was also people laughing at him, and it was strange.
Eric, you were able to tell your psychologist that you had killed your parents, but you were not able to tell your psychologist that your father had abused you?
Unless you've been molested, you can't realize how hard it is to tell.
Because of shame?
Because of shame.
The story continues now, the scene being set for murder. Describe your relationship with your father. What words come into your mind?
Brutal. Painful. Torturous. And yet I thought that he was the most powerful and brilliant person I had ever met. I was his firstborn son. That was very important to him. And my bond with him was, I thought, strong because we had been through so much together, but it was difficult to see the things that were going on. And
things that were going on, that is, when you learned that he was sexually molesting your brother?
He had sexually molested me before I was a teenager, and it was a much different experience than Eric's.
Because you were little?
Because I was little, I guess.
You know, there are some questions that everybody asks, like, why didn't you run away? I wish that I could have. I tried to run away when I was 12, and my father found me, he caught me, and said, if you ever run away, I will kill you, I will find you, and I will kill you. Suppose you left and you, I don't know what, became a waiter and moved away. You still thought he'd find you?
He would find me and probably kill me. I thought for certain he would kill me.
You still think that?
Oh, absolutely.
Did you love your mother or like your mother?
I loved my mother and I tried to help her. My mother was a person in a lot of pain, and she was alcoholic and she was suicidal.
Did she know about the abuse, the sexual abuse?
She knew.
And didn't do anything?
She knew, and it doesn't seem that she did anything.
Do you still think about the night of the murder?
Every day.
You both do? Tell me as clearly as you can why you murdered your parents that night.
First thing that comes to mind is terror. I was so afraid. A few days before, I had said to myself, I'm never going to let my father touch me again. After I told Lyle that it had been continuing on, I said to myself, I'm never going to let him touch me again. And just before the shootings, my dad told me to get to my room and that he would be there in a minute, and he was going to come up and there was going to be sex, and it was like an explosion in my mind.
But you'd bought the guns. It wasn't something that just happened that moment. You'd thought about it.
No.
You bought the guns in advance. They just weren't in the house.
Yes, we bought the guns in advance.
So this didn't just happen that moment.
We bought the guns. There was a series of confrontations and blow-ups in the house. My dad, when it first was revealed that I had told Lyle about the secret, my dad said to Lyle, you're going to tell everyone, and I'm not going to let that happen.
Take me through your mind, Lyle.
I cannot separate and say this is why this happened.
my father was threatening us, and so there was fear, but there was great, there was anger on my part, and my mother was aware of and had allied herself with my father, and there was a great deal of confusion. This happened all in just 3 days, and I wish I'd give anything to just turn back that one page of my life.
The other big question. You killed your father, who was molesting you. Why did you kill your mother?
On Thursday night before, in one of the explosions, I was running downstairs and I was crying, and my mother was on the couch and she had been drinking, and she said, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "Nothing, nothing, you wouldn't understand." And she said, "Oh, I understand. What do you think, I'm stupid?" And she told me that she knew, that she had known all my life what my father was doing. And it was like I didn't even know who she was anymore. And I just saw Dad and Mom as the same person at that point. I saw them as a single person.
And really the first time that this secret about what was happening with Dad and Eric was discussed openly in the family in a very angry way. I don't know about Eric, but I completely lost control myself. And in that time, I didn't separate. I knew my mother and my father. It was just adrenaline and fear and anger. I
lost control.
There is no explanation.
But
we don't offer one.
You had thought about this earlier because you had bought the gun several days before.
We knew that this could end, a violent confrontation could occur because my father had threatened my life.
You still think your father would have killed you for revealing the secret? You both still feel that?
There's no question.
Really?
I still believe that. I don't believe that he was in the process of killing us that moment, that evening.
Yeah.
But and I don't think that it might seem, because there are so few cases that come to the public's attention like this, that this has never occurred ever before in the country. And in fact, there are over 200 parricides a year that involve incest families. And so, I felt it completely then, and now I believe that, but I would not shoot my parents now, no matter what.
How now would you have resolved it? Now, almost 7 years later? What do you think you should have done?
I would have never told. I got Lyle into this. I went to him and I said, "Lyle, I can't live anymore with what's going on," and got him involved. He was a way to go. They had bought him a condominium. He was going to Princeton. He had all the money.
So it's your fault for telling your brother?
It's my fault. And I got him involved and said, "I need your help." And 5 days later, my parents were dead.
So it's your fault?
That's completely my fault.
He was suicidal at the time, and it was just a last thing to reach out. And obviously who was going to reach out to. And I decided to confront my father rather than just sort of not say anything and just have Eric and I leave, which if I could go back, that's what I would do. I would just say, "Eric's old enough now, he wants to leave."
Have you forgiven yourself?
I don't think it's possible.
Lyle, are you at any kind of peace?
More so than maybe Eric, because at this point, for some reason, well before the verdict, I was resigned to bad things. And I have, I think, found a place where I can look forward and try to have hope and share myself more with people. And
Hope of what?
hope of living a life that I can be more proud of.
How
And
in prison?
you're confined, but there must be